Next, I'd like to touch on a new type of object called the map object. And map object, it's actually very similar to a regular object, but it's essentially used for simple key value pairs. So in the past, we just always used objects for this purpose, but now there's a map object that we can use. Any value can be used for either a key or value. So that means, objects, string, function, etc. Right, so why would you ever use this over an object? Well, that's a good question. And most of the time you probably are going to want to use an object. It makes sense if you have an object and you want to have methods on the object, for example. But if you just need a simple collection, so just a simple, key value pair type structure, you could use a map for that. So if we say something like reasons for using map over object. And one reason is, well, the object prototype has default keys that might conflict with your own keys. That could be annoying. Keys of map can be anything, for example, whereas with objects have to be string or symbol. And we haven't really covered symbols, but it's just a different type of structure, basically. Also, you can easily get the size of map. A couple other differences, but really these are the key reasons you might want to consider using map over just creating a new object. So again, anytime you need to do something maybe more complex, consider using an object. You don't have to use map. Objects will work just fine, but I think it's worth kind of going over just to understand exactly what they are. So let's take a look at how to create a map. So we can say const my map equals new map, like so. So this is how you create a new map. And now you can basically assign keys and values simply. If you say something like my map dot set, and whoops, you can do my map dot set, and then you set basically a key and a value. So at this point, if we console log my map, let's see what it looks like. Run it. Okay, we can see it's a map object. If I open it in DevTools, we'll be able to actually inspect it. So we can see we have one entry position 0, key, and value. So it looks a little weird, but basically this is the key and this is the value. And we can do this a bunch of times. So if we do my map dot set, another key, comma, another value. Right, again, let's save it. We'll run it, open it in DevTools again. Right, so there we can see. Let me clear some of this off and we'll run it again. Okay, there we can see there's a map, and as you can see, entries. We could see all the entries. So entry 0 is key, and the value for key is value. The next entry is another key, and we have another value on there. At this point, we could say my map.size, which you can't do on a regular object, but let's check it out. Okay, it has 2 entries. That makes sense, right? So basically, it's looking at entries. How many entries do I have? And here we see it has 2. As we start to add more, this could be pretty useful, as you could see. Right, so let's add another one, another key 2, another value again, for example. Just simple key value associations, and now the size is 3. And right now we're just giving it, string literals. We could do something different. So for example, const first pair or first key equals key. Const first val equals first value, like so. Then we can just pass those in. For example, first key, and then we pass in first val. Right, now our map size should still be 3. So that's kind of cool. And whoops, I scrolled all the way down to the bottom. And I don't want to actually delete those. I just wanted to enter the space. So what we could do now is we can use get instead of set as well. So console log mymap.get, and here you can enter in the key you want to look for, and the value. It'll show you the value associated with that key. So show us first key. Clear. We run. Okay, it showed us the first value. So a slightly different way of accessing than you might be used to with regular objects. But it does kind of make sense, right? You say, okay, show me the value associated with first key. What about down here? Can we do it if we don't have, a named variable? Well, let's try. mymap.get another key. Right? Essentially, we're doing the exact same thing here, and this, of course, works. And then we can do that, of course, here too. Right? mymap.get. Let's say you make a spelling mistake and you just type some gibberish in here. Well, it's just going to return as undefined. So that one is undefined. So pretty simple. We can do set, we can do get. There is something else we can do called clear. That's also part of the API. So let me erase these console logs. And let's see what happens if we call mymap.clear, and then we try to console.log mymap again. Okay, I'll save that. Clear, run. Okay, it's still an object, a map object, but now we've cleared it. There's no entries. Right, so pretty simple. You just call it clear. You can also check if it has a certain key, which is pretty nice. So you can do mymap.has. Let's see, does it have a key called first key? And this will return a Boolean to us. So clear, we run it, and it's true. Yep, we definitely have that key inside this map. What if we try something that it doesn't have? So just some gibberish, clear, run. This one is false. Now the neat thing is, unlike an object which needs to take a string or a symbol as its key, we could pass it different types of things. And that looks a little strange at first, but we can say const second key. And what if we were to do something like this? Second key is an object. Now we try to use that here. Second key. Okay, and then we'll just console log my map again. Save, run it. Okay, and we'll open up DevTools. Okay, we have our map, and we can see that we have an object here as the actual key. Pretty weird, right? We could do that with a function as well. So let's say const third key equals function, and we're just not going to have the function do anything in its block. And we try to do that here. Third key. Right? And as you might expect, we are able to do that. Right? This one shows us a function and the value associated with it. Pretty funky, right? And we can still use get as well. So get third key. Let's console log it. This is the value associated with that third key, which we defined here. But definitely is possible. We can also call for each on the mymap prototype, or map prototype rather. For each looks like this. It takes a callback, which I'm just going to create as an anonymous function. And in here we're going to say val, and then we can console.log each value out. Let's see what happens. Right, so we can just easily iterate over that with a for each function. Right, and as usual, you could console log the prototype. So to take a look at it, console log my map.prototype. What does it look like? Let's check it out. Undefined. Right, but what about map.prototype? Let's run that. Right, and here we can see the different methods we can call. Not nearly as many as there is on the object prototype. Right, so we can see we can call get, set, for each. We'll go over these entries and values as well in a second, but again, this is a good way to learn about what you can and what you can't call on the map prototype. Now, in terms of iterating, there's a couple different ways you can iterate over maps. You can call keys, you can call values, and actually values like that, and you can also call entries. So iterating, as we know, we can iterate with loops. So if we ever need to iterate over a map, we could do a for each loop. That definitely works. We could also do a for of loop. So for example, just to check it out, as usual, we'll do console log my map.keys. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, so it gives us an iterator. If we take a look at the console, this is what an iterator looks like. Essentially, it just kind of breaks it down, and we can kind of use destructuring to our advantage here. So you know what? Let's try that out. So we'll do for const index prop. Well, it wouldn't be index actually. It would be key value. Key value of my map.entries. We could do this. And you know what? We can console.log something like this. So we'll just print out the key and the value like so. Let's try it out. Okay. So we're looping over the entries. Right? We're using this entries function to do so, which basically splits off, gives us an array that we're hereby destructuring, getting the key and value. So key of the first one is key. That makes sense. That's what we defined. And the value is first value. Key of the second one, well, it's an object. So it looks a little weird, but it's showing us that it's an object. Basically calls toString on these things. It's an object with the value of another value. This one, it's a function with a value of another value again. If we only need the values, we could just do that. MyMap.values. Right? Instead, we'll just say const val, and we could just console log that here. Let's check it out. Right, so we only get the values in this case, and vice versa. If we did keys, we could do key and key like so. Gives us the kind of the opposite. So that's the basics of maps. You could also call .delete as well, in case I didn't mention it. So my map.delete, and then you give it the key, third key, for example. At this point, let's see what happens. Run. Right, so we deleted our third key. That's why it's not showing up anymore. That's just another way to do that. And when you initialize your map, you can also pass it, a collection type thing that it's expecting. So to show you what I mean by that, I'll comment that out. And you could say const, let's see, my map data equals an array. And then you kind of break it down into separate key value pairs here. Right? So for example, key A, value 1, key B, value 2. Then you could just say const another map equals new map and give it my map data, and that should work. Right? Recall earlier when we were inspecting the map that it looked a little weird, and it's because it's kind of broken down. This is one key value pair. This is another key value pair within a greater array. So at this point, if we were to console.log another map, we should see that functioning as intended. Let's check it out. Map, and we have entries, and that's exactly what we told it to use for entries. And we could have done this another way as well, if we just kind of directly put it in like so, new map, and then for each map entry, entry 1, val 1, comma, entry 2, val 2. This will also work. Sanity check. And whoops, did not mean to put, or shouldn't have put that semicolon there. Classic. Okay, there we go. And we should see that now reflected. Yep, cool. That's the map object. Pretty good stuff. The next type of object is the set object. And we've kind of seen this a little bit previously. As I recall, we used it once in an example. And a set basically allows you to, well, it's kind of similar to an array, except every element is unique. So basically, lets you store unique values of any type. And these can be primitives, they can be object references, they can be, functions, they can be anything essentially. And each element is unique. So there's not much to sets really. Once you understand arrays, you will probably have a pretty good understanding of sets. The difference being, of course, that arrays, you can have, multiple elements of the same value, for example, but for a set, each will be unique. And so what that means is you basically set up a set like this. So let's say const my set equals new set. Okay, this is now a set, and we can add things to the set if we want to. For example, we can say my set dot add. We'll add a name here, Bob. And let's console log the set. Okay, clear it, run. You can see that it's a set object, and if I inspect it in the Chrome DevTools as usual, we can see that it has entries, just like maps has entries. Set also have entries, right? So there we have Bob. Let's add another entry, my set.add. We can add a Boolean, for example. Right, let's try that again, run it. Now there should be multiple entries. Right, so our set, we have two entries. The entry at index 0 is Bob, at index 1 is true. What if we try to add Bob again? Well, as you might expect, it's not going to allow us to do that, Bob. It's going to pick up that, hey, I already have this value in the set. Right, so let's take a look and just make sure that each entry is only entered once. So this could be convenient if you need that kind of use case. And otherwise, you can, of course, just add other types of things. So, you know what, let's construct an object. Obj123, A1, B2. Can we add this to the set? Obj123. Well, let's try. Console.log my set. And we can, of course, add objects to sets as well. Right, so if we inspect it here, oops, looks like it may not have updated. Let's try that again. Clear, run, open it up here. And there we see we have an object. We can expand the object to get the value as well. And this is what we can do with sets. Now, largely the functions and methods you can call on map, you can call on set as well. So let's take this set, let's add some more things to it. So we can say const another obj equals x1, y2, z3, const my string, hello there, and we can also do const a bool equals true. Right, so we can add all these to the set. We'll add the obj, my set.add, another obj, my set.add, my string, and we'll add the bool as well. A bool. Okay, sanity check. Let's make sure that's working as intended. And didn't work. I think we probably have another object declared somewhere else. We'll say obj 456 instead. Okay, and then we'll update this, obj 456. All right, let's try that again. Interesting. Let's see what our console has to say. Oh, there it worked. Okay. Yeah, we're trying to declare another object again. Okay, set, we have 4 entries, 2 objects, 1 string, and 1 boolean. Cool. At this point, instead of console logging the set itself, let's console.log my set.size. Right, we can call this on sets, and we can see that the size is 4. Makes sense because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 entries in this collection. We've already seen add, and we can of course do my set.delete, and if you delete obj 1, 2, 3, right, then we can check the size again. Clear, run. So we went from size 4 to 3 because we deleted something. We deleted an element from the set. By the same token, we can do .has. So my set.has. Hey, do you have my string in there somewhere? True. What about my string? False. Doesn't have this value. Right, it does have the value hello there. Let's see what this tells us. True, right, because we just assigned it to a variable there. And of course, you can use this for any of the other entries we have. So you can check, of course, if does this value exist in the set. We can also call for each on sets. So just like an array, we can call for each on. We can call it on a set now. Just like a map, we can do that with maps as well. So if we do my set.for each, takes a function. So we'll see. Let's see set. I'm just going to call it s here. And what we want to do is we want to well, we don't necessarily want to return every time, but we can console.log s. You can console log out each element in the set. Let's see what this does. Clear, run. Right, so we can see the first element is an object. The second element is an object. Then we have a string. Then we have a Boolean. Right? It just kind of repeats it back to us in the same insertion order. So it does do that in the same order it was inserted in. Right? And just to be more clear, we could even do something like set item s. For some reason, you may want to do that. Right? Set item object. That does make our objects look a bit funky, but hey, I think you get the idea, right? You can do some kind of transformative action or just log out each of them, check over each of them, for example. Right? You could do something like if type of s equals object console.log we got an object. Put that over there. Close off our if statement. Else console.log s. Right, just as a silly example, we got an object and then hello there. Right, so for each, very simple to use. I'll comment that out actually. We can also iterate over each item. So if you'd rather not use for each, if you want to iterate instead, well, it's largely similar again to iterating over a map. So we can call .keys or values or entries. And you might be thinking, well, these don't really have keys. And it's kind of funny because keys and entries basically do the same thing for sets. So let's check that out. We'll do for const, we'll say val of my set dot values. And this is essentially the same as a for loop, or for each loop, I should say. Okay, let's see if this worked. There we go. Right, so we're just iterating over the values of set. Now what if we change this to keys? Let's see if it changes anything. Clear, run, and you can see that it does the same thing. So I'm not sure why we need both for sets, but values or keys will do the same for sets. That's not the case with maps, of course, because maps, the key and the value is, they're different things. But with sets, it doesn't really matter. Finally, if you wanted to do entries, so with entries, you can get the key and the value. So key, value, and if we console log out the key, I'll do one of these. Let's see, key, value. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, clear, rerun, and object, object. Hello there, true, true. Right, so we don't really have keys with sets again. So key and value here, they're just the same. Right, so you can call .entries. It's just a way to iterate over this data. But generally, you can just get away with .values, and that'll probably give you what you need. Another neat thing that you can do with sets is you can kind of transform them into arrays and vice versa, which could be pretty handy, right? They're a pretty similar data structure to arrays. And what we can do, and I'm going to make a comment here. convert set to array. And so, you know what, let's grab my set here. You can say const r from set. So array from set equals. And all we need to do is we can call array actually on the array prototype, array dot from, and this is how we can basically create an array from something. So we give it my set. Let's check out console log r from set. See what that looks like. Pretty cool, right? So again, if I look at this in the dev tools, we can see that now it's just a regular array. Right? And then at this point, if we wanted to push some duplicate into the array, well, we can totally do that. So let's try that. R from set dot push. And what should we push? Let's push in, let's see, my string again. Dot push my string. Okay, let's see if we were successful. And yep, there's our string once, there's our string again. And by the way, while I'm on the topic, we can call array from on maps as well. So, you know, if we want to see that, say const r from map equals array dot from another map. Then we console log that out. And it's pretty cool to have this functionality. Right, so there's our array, and we can see it just kind of groups our collections together of our map. But that's a little bit off topic. We are on sets now, but just be aware that that is possible, which I think is pretty cool. And by the way, you can also do it from a string. So that would look something like this. Const r from string equals array dot from hello there. Okay, let's console log it. Not to get too off topic, but I think this is pretty neat. So clear, we run, and we can see it just kind of broke up our string and split it into an array, which is pretty cool. Okay, back on topic. Now what if we wanted to do vice versa? And vice versa. So if we have an array now that we want to convert into a set. So let's say we have const my r equals, and I'm just going to add 1, 2, 3 here just in case, and we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, all we need to do, and this is pretty straightforward, and again, this is kind of like the map functionality. So let's call this another set equals new set, and then we give it the array right in here in the constructor. Right, and then if we console.log another set, we should be able to verify that. Clear, run. Okay, so there's our set. Let's open it up in the console. We have a set with 5 entries with the numbers, right? So number at index position 0 is 1, and so forth. Right, and if we start to change some things in here, that might be a bit more clear. We'll add false. This one can be an object, A3, right? And then we run it, and now we check it out. We have all these entries. So it's very easy to create a set from an array, and it kind of does the job of removing any duplicates. So for example, if we have 1, 1, 1, 1, then a 2, then a 3, then a 5, then a 1 again, well, let's try it out and see what happens. Okay, so our new set has 4 entries, and we have 1 only once. So each entry is only entered once, so each is unique. So creating a new set takes care of removing those duplicates for us. Right, and you could say console log another set dot has. Hey, do you have a 1 in there somewhere? True. Do you have a 10? Of course, this will be false. Now, on the other hand, let's say we have a set that we want to convert into an array. Well, you've already seen array from. An alternate way is we could just do something like this. So const another r from set, and we can use our old friend dot dot dot, the spread operator. Right, so we have another set here. You know what, we'll create a new set instead. So const yet another set equals new set, and you can actually just create one like so. And we'll say A, Z, Q, T, just kind of no particular reason for those. But we can create an array from a set just by using this dot 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 syntax. So we say yet another set, right? And then let's check it out. Console log, another R from set, run, and we can see that we created an array from that set. Right? And just as a sanity check, if we compare it to yet another set, right, it's not the same. This is a set, this is an array. So those are a couple other neat features that personally I really like in ES6, and I would just encourage you to, practice this, try to prototype some examples. It's just good to know the difference, for example, between a set and an array. So, I would recommend trying to think, where would I use an array versus where would I use a set? If you don't want to use a set ever, hey, that's totally fine. And same with maps. Maps, if you're more comfortable just using objects instead of maps, that works just as well. I do think it is worth knowing the difference though and trying to think, should I put this into an object or a map? Why would you do one or the other? So just consider it, think about it. And also I would encourage you to really get used to this REST syntax. We saw up here when we were going over the REST, or the spread syntax I should say, the spread syntax, and how it makes our life a little bit easier in terms of doing things with arrays. And same with the REST syntax if you have multiple arguments in a function, right? Like this, for example. It's just good to know. So as you're working on projects and developing your apps, you might be seeing this more and more in the wild, and it's just good to understand, have a really solid understanding of those. As well as if you're ever reading a tutorial and you see something you don't understand, I would encourage you to always just go to the docs, check it out on Mozilla Developer Network, or look up blog posts and examples. That's really the best way to learn, as well as just kind of fingers on keys. That's how I personally learn the best. And like I said, these are just a couple of the other new features of ES6. Get out there, explore what else ES6 has to offer. There's a lot out there to discover.